Now at this time I'd like to introduce our speaker. I have to apologize to Harold. When we asked him to be the speaker, I just assumed everybody thought the same thing I did. Anytime you speak to Harold Cox, you think of these flock of birds he's got up here. So I didn't ask him what he's going to talk about. So I put in the bulletin and told everybody I saw that asked me what he was going to talk about. I said, well, he's going to talk about those peacocks, of course. So he gets here and he tells me that he had something else, completely different plan for this talk. But he would bring the birds, he did bring the birds along. Turn it on. Yeah. And I'd like to introduce this time to Harold Cox.
Better get over there so I can get some support. Thank you, Don. Appreciate the opportunity of being here. I didn't know if I was going to get to come or not, because shortly after I got the letter, my wife had some serious physical problems, and she has improved, and so we're grateful to be here. Appreciate all of your friendships. And I'm sorry that I can't call each of you by name, but it is my first trip to this area. A lot of you have seen these birds before. And I would just like to tell you a story about Joyce. There isn't a person in this world that I would rather pick on than her. She was walking in the area of her neighborhood, and she saw this little boy. He was attempting to ring the doorbell, and try as he could, he just couldn't quite make it. So she watched him a little while, and she went up and she said, well, let me do that for you. So she pushed the doorbell, and he looked at her and he grinned, and he said, now we got to run like heck. But I do appreciate this opportunity. I don't get to see these birds displayed like this very often, because at home they're here and there, but Bill Edwards, in one of his books, made the statement, peacocks, that's what Carnival glass is all about. And there certainly are a lot of them out there, and they must be desirable because you guys all buy them, you know. And I think all of the major companies were into the peacock business, but Northwood was far ahead of the rest of them. These peacock and urn bowls, well, maybe I should talk about some that aren't up here. We've been about 30 years assembling these birds. They don't cost much feed, but you probably all heard about the Vaseline peacock and urn bowl that showed up this summer. And then there is a pearlized custard. I think there are 2 known examples of that. And there's a young man came up to me that is in the voice sitting right back here, says that he has a small one. I should have given him my telephone number, but he knows my name. And then last week, learned, now I haven't confirmed this because I didn't have time to call the lady who I know very well. A friend of mine's wife had stopped into her home, and she claims that in her collection she has a milk glass with marigold overlay in her collection. When I get home and have the time, I just want to confirm that, but I know I won't get a chance to buy it. But there are 3 that you don't see up there. And probably will be many years before they do up here. If you ever happen to run across them, you know my name, just give me a call, These peacock bowls vary in width from probably 9.5 to 10 inches. Some of them are flatter. Some of them don't quite turn up as much as the other. Some of them are stippled all the way out. Last week I was up at Flint, Michigan, and I was at a Gary Cooper auction. And in the brochure, he had listed peacock and their stippled bowls. And he sold this one to a mail-in bid. I went up to him the next morning and I said, Gary, these bowls are all stippled in the bottom part here, but there are some that go all the way out to the edge. Now, if this gentleman, or whoever bought it, would have received that bowl, he probably would have got it back because they were not stippled all the way out to the edge. And the little sauces, the makeup in them is different than the makeup in the large bowl, in the fact that on the urn there are more rows of lines, and there are flowers. Some of them are eliminated and some of them are smaller. And the peacocks, as they grasp on the edge here, the feet look a little bit different. Now, in the little bowl, the only stippled ones all over that I have ever seen are in the cobalt blue, and they're more plentiful than any other. And in the marigold set that I have there, I have 5 that are completely stippled, and the rest of them are just stippled in this area here. This first one I purchased at an antique show at Wabash, Indiana, close to about 60 miles from Fort Wayne. And if I told you what I had to pay for it, you probably would be amazed. But I paid $245 for the big one and 4 little ones. But like I say, this goes back a few years. This bowl was the last one that I purchased, and I just got this year. And I would like to hang the guy that invented the term Renninger blue. But that's what he called it. I don't know if it is or not, but I had to pay for the Renninger blue prize for it. These 2 bowls, come on up here, Don. I'm going to. Well, you can hold them here, and this one you can hold one, I'll hold the other. If you turn them over, they are very identical But on the front side, you could tell that his was a lot different than this one. Now, this one came from the Don Moore collection, and some of you might have seen it. He made the statement on some tapes he made that I probably would commit murder just to get my hands on this bowl. But I asked Frank Fenton the difference in the iridescence or the way that these bowls look. And this was what he told me, and being a pharmacist and knowing a little bit about chemistry, I knew what he was talking about. He said, this one, there was zinc in the spray, and that one, there was iron. And you can see the yellow effects from the iron spray in that one. But I consider these bowls to be a smoky type of ice cream bowl. This one is sapphire, and I was very happy to get that one because there are only a handful of them known to exist. I was over in Canandaigua, New York, attending the American Convention, and we happened to have our peacocks as a room display. And there was a gentleman there that lived in the area, went home, came back, dropped that bowl on my bed and said, what do you think of that, dude? And I said, I'd sure like to own it. Well, I do. But the first one of those that I ever saw was several years ago, and Chuck, you'll have to help me with this. He is from Pennsylvania, the little short guy that he's had a couple of auctions. He's still alive. What's it? Well, he's a little German guy, the little German guy. You know. No. Thanks a lot, you guys. You're not even close. No. You've been over to that place where you were last night, Todd. Well, anyway, there was an auction over there, and after the auction, I was roaming around, and I walked in his room. The door was wide open, and there on the dresser was this sapphire blue bowl. And this was probably close to 20 years ago. And I never knew anything like that existed. And he had two auctions, and the next time this auction came out, I thought, man, I hope that bowl was in there, but it wasn't. And he hung on to it. The name will come to me. You know, at my age, I get kind of senile. And before I forget it, my good friend Floyd is back there. And I'll have to tell you a story about Floyd. Floyd Whitley. He goes walking a lot. You know, that guy right there in front of you, Joyce. And he got up one morning and he's walking, and somebody had dug this big hole in that happened to be in the cemetery. They were going to have a funeral that day. They fell in that thing. And he starts hollering, help! I'm freezing down here. Well, wouldn't you know it, there was another guy came around there, and he was at the same place where Todd was last night, and he was a little more inebriated, and heard this guy say, hey, it's cold down here. And he looked down in there and said, isn't any wonder you kicked all the dirt off.
How about handwork?
That's the guy. Handwork, Mr. Handwork over there. He had that's the first sapphire blue bowl that I ever saw. I might add that there is only one set here that I bought as a set, and that was the amethyst one. The rest I put together. I'll tell you this story. The ice cream one down there, I bought in 1971. And then I ran an ad in the Hoda Bulletin that I needed 6 ice cream, peacock-and-earn sauces. 2 years after I ran the ad, I got a letter from a lady. Says, I have those, and there they are. So it pays to advertise. Well, I don't know what I can tell you about these. A lot of you people know more about this than I do. But here is an example that most of you probably would overlook if you saw it in a mall or someplace. But this is a deep bowl that has been made from the ice cream shaped mold. You can look and you can see the ridges are identical. And I think my good friend Richard Sinclair, who comes down in Texas, and of course all these guys that know me know I'm very gullible. So he gets on the phone and says, well, in about 6 months, I'll tell you how much I have to have for it. I thought I was going to have to mortgage the back 40. Then he gets together with Mary and a couple of those other high-priced people down there. But I said, I'll take it. Well, this is the set that I want complete. And then these chop plates, there are more of these in amethyst known. I think there are one ice green and one white one, and there are rumors of maybe one other ice green one, but I don't think it has ever been confirmed. And the marigold is very tough. And that is one of the reasons that I don't have more of those chop plates. Now this is a completely stippled cobalt blue set. Cecil made it prettier. Cecil happens to own one of these. But these things here, I think there's 12 of them, the masters, that are known. There are 10 in the States and 2 in Australia. And they change hands so privately, and it's kind of hard to keep up with them. But at one time I could have told you where all of these were. But back in the 70s, this one sold up at Effingham, Illinois. Neil Markham had a fabulous collection of Carnival glass, and he had a heart attack, and he sold this collection. And a lot of you people here, or several of you, know Leonard Harsh. Well, Leonard was an interesting character. I guess character would describe him very well. He was from Nebraska, and he told me, I am considered the black sheep in our family. He said, Saturday night, I get out and raise hell. And the rest of my family looked down on me. Well, when he's he never was married, but when his parents passed away, the family got together, and the one said, I'm going to take this section, and Charlie said, I'll take this section, and they said, Leonard, you can have that section way down there. It was a stony and the worst farm, and this really was true. And they discovered oil on that thing, and he had several producing oil wells. He flew into St. Louis with an old flannel shirt, torn bib overalls on, and he took a taxi out to Effingham, which is 100 miles from St. Louis. And the taxi driver looked at him and he said, before I take you, I want the money. And then, that really was true. But he didn't know anything about Carnival glass, but this was a thing where he was the center of attraction, and he bought that. I ran it up on him, but I had, it was like some of these people. I often thought, if I ever have an auction, I hope that guy is there. He had number 1, and that card would go up just like that. But after he passed away, his niece inherited his Carnival glass, and they sold it at the Hoga convention out at the high-rise at the airport. And my wife said, we'll never buy that. Look at all these guys with all this money around here. And there was a guy there from California, and I could shoot him. If he hadn't been there, I'd have got it a lot cheaper. I won't tell you what his name is. Now, this is really a Northwood piece, but it has radium finish on. And this very attractive lady sitting right here said, I was there and I was going to buy that, but you paid more money than I wanted to for it. I got this from Springfield when Jim had sold it out. Remember that, Jim? But I also have another one at home just like it. Now, if any of you find a master, my telephone number is 745-8114. And you can call collect. About 2 or 3 years ago, Tom Mordini did an article on Northwood, Peacock and Urn, and he said he never had confirmed the plate, but I happen to have 2 of them. So I might have, and Dick Hofstadter has a purple one. So we know of 3, don't we, Dick? You want to tell Tom? He went to Maryland. Well, you can write him a letter. And now here's another example of those berry bowls that have been pulled out. And I think that I bought this at a Tom Burns auction several years ago, and they didn't even know it. See, but us old peacock collectors, I recognized that right away. Now here are 5 little saucers that are stippled all the way out, and the master is also stippled all the way out. So I'm looking for another one of these, but these in the marigolds are really tough to find. This I just call a pastel. It's kind of like the one that you bought today, very similar, but It's very pretty. This is the only green set known, a complete green set. And these little green peacock sauces are just fine. The master, there are only about 5 or 6 of those that are known, and 2 or 3 of them came from Australia. It seems like some of these rare colors, like the green, was found in Australia. And this one lady that I know had 2 of them. But I bought this one from a lady in California several years ago. And I tell her every time I see her, she's going to get a hug because I was really happy to get it. I think there are probably, like I say, not more than 5 or 6 of them known. Then here's another one of these, that's kind of a pastel pulled out in a berry shape. And there are only a couple of those known. Now you find the marigold ones more plentiful, but the amethyst in this pastel marigold, there are only, I think, 2 of them known. Right, John? Yeah, you just don't find them very often. And people really pass them up. The Tomzacks up in Wisconsin were into peacocks. And Swede had one for, well, he had it for a couple of years, and he was trying to tell people how rare it was, and nobody believed him. And I told Mrs. Tomzack, you have to buy that because it'll fit in with. And so she thought I was kind of an authority, and she bought it. And I never did get that their steak dinner Swede. Well, this is a white one. And this one is lime green. And when I purchased that one several years ago, it was the only lime green one that was known, but there's 2 or 3 that have appeared since, And I think this year, as some of you heard at the auction or heard, there have been several rare things that have showed up, like this aqua opal punch bowl and drape and cable. And I understand an Indiana State House plate. Before there was only one known. Someone over in Ohio found one. But the minute you think you have one of a kind, boom, here 2 or 3 show up. And I suppose we would be surprised if we knew what was out there floating around yet to be discovered. This ice green one and this white one were the first 2 of these ice cream bowls that we purchased. And it was 1971. We went to the ICGA convention at Louisville, Kentucky, and this man from Tobaccoville, North Carolina, had these for sale in his room. And I went in there a dozen times, and finally I decided to buy them. We had been collecting Carnival glass for 7 or 8 years before this, but we knew nothing. All we knew was Carnival glass, and if it sold for $20, I'd let the other sucker buy it, you see. So when I had to pay $150 a piece for those 2, I drove home to Fort Wayne, Indiana from Louisville, just talking to myself all the way home and saying, what kind of a jerk are you? Anybody that pays that much kind of money for glass got rocks for brains. But it's been a rewarding experience. I brought this one along just for some special effects. I bought this in a room at a convention, and I held it up to the light, and I said, it's cobalt blue. A couple of years later, I pulled it out. What color is it? Amethyst. So that's what spray will do for you. Mrs. Hartung said that Northwood never made any smoky Carnival glass. She said the smoky effect is created by the iridescence, and I kind of agree with her. I just picked this up because I thought it was cobalt blue, but it isn't. So one of these days, somebody else will own it. Well, this is the little sauce that I just brought along. It's a little bit different. I don't know. It's an amethyst type. I bought it because it looked different. But it's kind of pretty. Then I'm not into Millersburg, but I did bring this Millersburg. I have two of them. I bought them a few years ago because I thought they were worth the money. I might have got skin out of my teeth. But for you people who don't know how to tell the difference from Northwood and Millersburg, is one of the reasons that I brought this. There are three ways that you can tell, and I will tell you two of them, and the other one, maybe Dick can tell you back there because he's in the Millersburg. Millersburg always has this star in the base. Northwood is plain, and about 99% of the time it's marked with an N in a circle. But when you see a star, it's Northwood. Millersburg. Then if you look at the urn, there are no beads on the urn. And you will always find beads on the Northwood. Now, do you remember how the other one? This one, I believe, it has a bee in there. Some of them don't. But they have so many different colors and things of Millersburg that I thought I didn't have the brain capacity to learn all of that, see. Well, that's about the end of my peacocks. But I did bring something along. I almost forgot this. I was going to start out with this. So I'll end up with it. This is what got us started on this crazy Carnival glass spray. My wife used to play the violin when she was in high school. And when we were first married, I was in college, and I was back from the service in World War II, and there was housing, and we didn't have a 25-foot trailer. And so some of her stuff was still with her parents. And we were down there one time after we had moved into our home, and her mother said, do you want your old violin? She said, I sure do. Well, she said, you better take it because you have a sister who would like to have it. So she's upstairs looking for the violin, and up on the cupboard was a space. She says, oh, Mom, that will go with our drapes. So she brought that home and sat it on the picture window. And I thought it was the ugliest thing that I had ever laid my eyes on. But I would come home, and she had contacted an antique shop on the other side of town, and we would go over there, and we would come home with a piece of Carnival glass, you know, the 15, 16, 18 color kind. And this went on for a couple of years. I find it's kind of interesting the way that people would get started in Carnival glass. And this is the thing that did it. When we learned that it was Carnival glass, she went crazy, and I went with her. Now she'd like to get me turned off. Well, if there are any questions, we got some experts out here that might be able to answer for you. I don't know that I can, but I will try. If not, you're welcome to come up and to look. But I would appreciate it. I would kind of be sick if I went home and there was some things that weren't there when I brought them. You know what I'm talking about. I really appreciate the opportunity of being here. And most of you have known me for a number of years, and there are a lot of faces here that I don't know. But it's been a real pleasure to be here. I want to thank Don for asking me, and I hope that I might have enlightened you something about peacocks. Thank you very much.
Tomorrow morning in this room just beyond here, we'll have breakfast at 7 o'clock sharp. And we hope to see all of you there. Have a good trip home. Thank you very much for coming.